it's Margie, and today's movie review is of the 2003 film Alex and Emma. This film starred Kate Hudson, Luke Wilson, David Paymer, Sophie Marceau, Rob Reiner, yes, the Rob Reiner that directed it, Lobo Sebastian, Chino XL, Paul Wilson, Francis Giroday, Alexander Wathier, Lily Kramer, Rip Taylor, Gigi Birmingham, Jordan Lund, and Cloris Leachman. Directed by Mr. Rob Reiner. Yes, the Rob Reiner that directed The Princess Bride, which I've done a previous review of. Written by Jeremy Levin. Cinematography by Gavin Finney. Editing by Alan Edward Bell and Robert Layton. Music by Mark Shaman. Okay guys, so the basic plot for this movie is there's this writer, and he is having serious writer's block, but he has gambled away all of his money and taken loans from some, let's say, not so nice people. These mob guys or whatever, you know, whatever you want to call them, gang guys or whatever. And so they come in and toss him around a little bit and say, you got to pay us back $100 grand within the 30 days. And the only way that he's going to make that $100 grand within the 30 days is to type a novel. Is to write a novel, obviously. So he contacts this stenographer, Kate Hudson, and tricks her into thinking that he is a law office. And so she shows up and he convinces her to type the book, and then they start going into like flashbacks, and or not flashbacks, but they show the book and the real life, and they kind of rotate between, you know, the two of those. So that's the basic plot. I know that's kind of a messy plot, but yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. Let's jump into these performances here. Kate Hudson, I felt like was pretty good on the whole, but I could have seen several people playing her role. However, she was better than a lot of people, and I'm really not familiar with Kate Hudson's work at all. That's one actress that I really have not seen a movie of hers in previously. I think I've seen one, which is extremely rare because most people I can at least tell you one movie that you know, as far as major actors and stuff like that. But so yeah, this is like my second film to see her ever, and I thought she did okay. I didn't feel like she did great, but again, I could have seen so many more people absolutely bombing, and she did not bomb. However, I did make a special note that her crying scenes were totally unbelievable. Like, not unbelievable great, like unbelievable like, you're so not crying right now, that's so fake, like, come on. So, I kind of fault her for that, and I fault Rob Reiner for not, you know, hopefully demanding more out of her, but, you know, that's just being kind of picky. Luke Wilson, I thought, did a pretty good job, but all that kept going over in my mind was, oh my word, Hugh Grant would have crushed this movie. I mean, he would have just killed it, and it would have been so fantastic, but, you know, that's just personal preference, and as I was talking about, you know, Hugh Grant and all that, I did a previous review of Mickey Blue Eyes. You know, I think he's a good actor, and I called him king of romantic comedies as far as acting, and I think he, or at least was, especially in the 90s and early 2000s and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I felt like he would have done really well, but I thought Luke Wilson did pretty well, and it could have been a lot more cheesy. So, yeah, I did make a special note, though, and this is not necessarily his fault or Kate's fault, but there was very little chemistry between he and Kate. Very, very, very little. Like, they just didn't really connect. I mean, they did in, like, a lot of the, you know, like, teasing scenes and that kind of stuff, but they seemed like a brother and sister. They didn't really seem like love interests, and when it came time for, like, the more mushy stuff, you were like, oh, please don't. Like, because this just doesn't seem right. So, yeah, that was kind of strange, honestly, but I didn't think they had good chemistry at all. Anyway, again, not necessarily their fault. They just didn't have it, and I felt like somebody should have said, okay, we need to cast somebody else. We need to do something here. But anyway, David Paymer, everybody else I listed was good. On the whole, I think they were solid. There wasn't anybody that just really stood out to death to me. But there were several good performances here, but again, nothing that really wowed me and nothing that stood out. supporting cast was pretty solid on the whole, but some of it got cheesy really quickly. But some of that's the writing, which I'm getting to in just a moment. Rob Reiner, I'm actually kind of surprised that he took on this project, guys. Not because he doesn't do romantic comedies and that kind of thing, but because of the writing, which is not that super, but I'm getting to that. I felt like it was good. I felt like he should have demanded more out of the writer, out of his actors, and that kind of thing. But, you know, the camera angles and everything, you know, and general directing were great, but I just wish he would have demanded more out of his leads and his writer. But, you know, that's being picky. That's my opinion. The writing for this was not that great just because the ending was extremely predictable, and I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that. It's just the truth. Like, you watch half the movie, you're like, I know how this is going to end. I knew how this was going to end before it even started, first of all, but I mean, so predictable. So predictable. And there's nothing wrong with predictable all the time. Like, some things you're like, I know this is going to happen and I can't wait to see it happen. And this is like, I know this is going to happen, so I just want to, like, stop the movie because I know it's going to happen anyway. So, yeah, that wasn't good. It does drag on a little bit. As far as the writing and yada yada, it gets a little monotonous. Again, that ending was really predictable. There were some good one-liners, but there wasn't really any funny moments, and I didn't really laugh. I was just like, oh, that's a pretty good line, but I wasn't laughing. Like, I didn't laugh through this film, I don't think at all. So that was really kind of disappointing because it's supposed to be a romantic comedy. I mean, I laughed a little bit, but not really, so I didn't find it that funny. Cinematography I thought was good, pretty standard romantic comedy cinematography. Editing, I felt like the editor should have made this just a little bit shorter because it did get a little long for me. But it wasn't ridiculously long, and I can't remember any scenes in particular I was like, you should have cut this. But again, like after like an hour and 15 minutes of the movie, you're like, please just end, please, because it gets old after, you know, an hour and a half and yada yada. I do think they spent, speaking of the editing though, I do think they spent a little much time in the novel, you know, imaginations or whatever. Like, you had the real life, and then Luke Wilson would start writing the novel, and they'd, like, show you the novel, you know, what he was writing and yada yada. And I felt like they did that a little too much. I would have liked them to keep it a little more real life. But I thought the narration, speaking about the writing, I thought the narration for, you know, all those scenes was good. So at least that's something to Mr. Jeremy Levin's credit. Again, not the worst writing, but it wasn't the best, and yeah. But anyway, editing, as I already mentioned. Music did not stand out to me at all. I really can't remember any of it. Could have been better, could have been worse, etc. I mean, just typical standard average music and that kind of thing. So it wasn't awful, but it sure could have been better. Did want to say, though, that people generally hate this movie. And I don't know why that is, other than it's not that great and it's Rob Reiner. So you kind of tend to go into it with a little higher expectations. I didn't know it was a Rob Reiner until, like, after the credits had already rolled. Like, I was looking up, you know, who all was in it and yada yada. And then I saw his name up there and I was like, oh, okay, you know. So I wasn't like, oh, it's a Rob Reiner, it's going to be great, you know, long in advance. So, you know, I thought it was going to be an okay romantic comedy, and it fell a little under the okay banner for me, but I felt like it was a neat concept to, you know, show the real life and then show the novel. I think that was the only thing that saved it. If this had just been like a typical romantic comedy with nothing else really special about it, yeah, it would have been a total flop in my opinion. But because you do flashback, that's kind of a neat thing, you know, and yada yada, that saved it, I feel like, from being awful. It doesn't save it completely, but at least it keeps its head above the water, right? Okay. Any more notes I have here? Again, the ending was totally predictable and yada yada. People generally don't like this movie. The critics didn't really care for this one that great. So yeah, and I'm just telling you that just because, you know, that's the general consensus that it's not very good. So if you're not satisfied with my opinion, well, then that's just what other people think. But let's jump into this Parents Guide. This is not the worst of movies, but it's not the best. The language is really, like, none, practically. You've got 1 B and 3 A's. So 4 words total, and not that bad. So yay for that. There's a woman seen in a tub under some bubbles. There is lots of cleavage in this movie as far as low-cut dresses. There is a sex scene, and they're naked from the shoulders up and in silhouette. And there's some potty humor, and there's some sexual references, and it's implied that the main characters sleep together. Drug and alcohol, yeah, there's both. There's smoking and drinking like wine and stuff, but it's not ridiculous. And violence and gore, not really any I can think of, honestly. I guess you could call it violence when, like, the loan sharks or whatever come in and they're demanding back his money. They rough him up. They threaten to throw him over a building, that kind of thing. But it's not really, like, extremely, it's not gory or anything like that. So not really anything to worry about there. Anyway, guys, wrapping this one all up, I'm giving this film about 2 to 2.5 stars out of 5. Just because I felt like the directing was not that bad, but I felt like Rob Reiner should have demanded more out of his, actors, really, if they were capable of giving more. And that's the problem with, becoming famous. And, people really loved him for The Princess Bride and When Harry Met Sally and that kind of thing, because people are expecting great things from you, and when it's not great, people just hate you. I'm not hating on Rob Reiner at all. I'm just saying this is definitely not one of his best films, and just be aware of that. I mean, when you go into it, don't expect real great quality, because it's not that super. But yeah, that's kind of my I summed up the whole review in this one word. It's just kind of like, no. Watch again, you guys know what I'm going to say. No, I wouldn't waste my time on this one again, but it's just kind of, one of those little cutesy movies, but it's not really cute. It falls more under weak than cute, in my opinion. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking out this review of the 2003 film Alex and Emma. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you guys later.